Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depends where you are. Welcome to our next discussion, our next roundtable, this time on the role of Georgia in Armenian Azerbaijani conflict. I am very glad to introduce you our new guest, our new participant, panelist, but I would like to start with myself. My name is Mikhail Mamedov. I earned my PhD from History Department of Georgetown University, and I have master degree from George Washington University and diploma in history from Moscow State University. I published I publish a lot on history of the Caucasus, and I publish a lot on literature and Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. And the reason why I got involved into this project, why I started organizing these events on Armenian-Azerbaijani conflict is this. My family arrived to the United States in 1996. We arrived over here as political refugees because I came from mixed family. My father was Azerbaijani, my mom was Armenian, so we could not stay. We had to leave Baku, and then we could not really settle in Russia because of all this xenophobic moves over there. So, welcome to our roundtable. Our roundtable is entitled Evaluating Georgia's Position in the South Caucasus Conflict. And our first panelist, our first speaker is Shorena Lord Kipanidze. Shorena Lord Kipanidze is a founder and board member of the Civil Council and Defense and Security non-government organization established in Tbilisi back in 2011. She is also a board member of Georgian Institute of Politics and a PhD candidate at Tbilisi State University, where she is teaching in gender studies program and international development and international relations program. Her professional interests include foreign policy, defense, security policy, security, nuclear security, non-proliferation, peace, and conflict studies, as well as social and political transformation processes. Our next speaker is Ahmad Alili. Ahmad Alili is a researcher in international and public policy and regional security of the South Caucasus and Eastern Partnership countries and neighboring regional powers. Ahmad is a part of several peace-building initiatives supported by the European Union, United Nations Partnership for Peace Consortium. Currently, Ahmad is the director of the Caucasus Policy Analysis Center, CPAC, a Baku-based independent think tank which promotes regional integration in the South Caucasus. Ahmad is also a lecturer at the Academy of Public Administration. He is lecturing on the role of non-state actors in regional security, geopolitics, public management, and good government. And finally, Alexander Iskandaryan is a prominent expert on history, politics of the Caucasus, and he is the director of the Institute of the South. He is the director of the South Caucasus, or director of the Caucasus Institute in Yerevan, Armenia. He published numerous articles, books, and presented numerous papers at numerous conferences all over the world, as I understand. So thank you. I'm delighted to see all of you here, and let's start. Well, my first question would be to Shorena. In somewhere in 1990s, Eduard Shevardnadze, Eduard Ambrosevich, Eduard Shevardnadze, he said, he came up with this idea, well, it wasn't a new idea, of course, that the Caucasia is наш общий дом, Transcaucasia is our mutual house. By this, he apparently meant that it's a place, the Transcaucasia or South Caucasus is a place where Armenians, Azerbaijanis, Georgians, where we all could live in peace. Well, it did not always work. It didn't always work like that, but he was saying that, you know, this is a place where we could coexist. And so well, Georgia at that time was facing a lot of separatist movements. On the north, Georgians had Abkhazians and Ossetian separatists, which were eventually supported by the Russians. But Georgia also had Armenian and Azerbaijani communities inside of this country, which lived pretty much in peace, unless their propaganda from their nation state does not interfere. And my question would be, how do you see the role of Georgia? What role Georgia play or should play to promote peace and stability between these two countries? I mean, Armenia and Azerbaijan. Is it still possible to live together? We had these Transcaucasian federations before. That one was existed separately. It emerged eventually and as a result of advancement of Ottoman troops, and the second was existed under the Soviet Union. But still, is it possible somehow we could exist, all these three nations, not three actually, five or six maybe, could exist together? What do you think, Sharon?
Thank you, Mikhail, for inviting. It's great pleasure and honor to be among you this evening for me. And thank you for bringing this issue into the discussion. And I think that we have no choice because geographically, and we have bonds. It's a structural regionalism, actually, geographical regionalism at least, which exists. So we are neighbors. We share common history, culture, lots of some elements of culture. And there is no other choice. From the geopolitical perspective, I think that actually to strengthen these bonds are very important to counterweight Russia's influence in the region. So this is very kind of simplified importance of this regional cooperation and strengthening these regional approaches in our relations. As for the question like evaluation Georgia's position with Armenia and Azerbaijan, I would say that Georgia can play a role in as a mediator, facilitator, helping parties, because even in 2020 war, I think Georgia was quite accurate, not to be, and was impartial, we can say. I mean, Georgian authorities, actually, they are very moderate. They reserved actually to openly state their positions. But what Georgia is always saying, this is peace for the Caucasus, and at least on the policy level cooperation. If you open our security concept, national security concept, of course, it was adopted in 2011. We have new one, COVID affected the adoption of new concept, national security concept, and now this very, very messy environment we have here. So what I want to say that was more focused on bilateral relations with Armenia and Azerbaijan and deepening bilateral cooperation, but less focus on this regional kind of affairs and more cooperation in this trilateral cooperation perspectives. But with today's positioning, with this very vague perspective of Georgia's strategic orientation, even with foreign agents law, with everything what's happening now in Georgia, I think that we are losing, Georgia is losing its positions to facilitate this building up this South Caucasus cooperation and deepening that cooperation, because I don't think that we are enough maybe trustworthy partner. Look at our relationship with EU, United States. It's on its way to deterioration because of this so-called multi-vectoral foreign policy, which is something new and something newly introduced into our political discourse. And I think that now we have to determine, first of all, where we are, whether we are still with our Western partners. I think that's important for us, because our positioning of Western-oriented, EU-oriented, democratic Georgia, I think this is something very important in this relationship. So without that strength, without democracy, without this strength, because we have no economic or energy resources, nothing. I think that Georgia's strength was always its aspiration to be more democratic, to fight for democracy, to be determined about our foreign policy orientation. And with that strong positioning, Georgia could and can in future just play more active role in peacemaking or peace building process in the region, which could lead us to more cooperation and deeper, I think deeper cooperation in future. So this is my perspective regarding your questions.
Okay, thank you so much. Great. Okay, Ahmad, now I would like to ask you, do you think that Georgia was generally, I would like to start with Ahmad, then I will go to Alexander. Do you think that Georgia was generally supported by Azerbaijan, or do you think that Georgia was acting more or less as an impartial, what is?
Well,
Yes, please, yes.
I believe that if we have to specify in which time period we're talking, right? That generally, Georgia and Azerbaijan are the two countries that enjoying strategic relations, and most of the geo-economic projects that connects the European Union and outer world to the South Caucasus, to the Caspian Basin, it's because there is this bridge in the region, and that bridge created by the strategic relations between Georgia and Azerbaijan. So it's basically a room with two doors, and if you have to open one door, it might be Azerbaijan or Georgia, and if you want to get out of that same door, you have to open the other door, right? So this is the symbiotic relations that we have in the region. So that is why the Tbilisi and Baku, back then Haydar Aliyev and Eduard Shevardnadze, they understood the value that it is very important to put the region to the map for the international players. So that is why all of those economical and the geopolitical projects that were realized in the 1990s, those projects helped Baku and Tbilisi to have something in their hands to trade with the bigger powers. And I believe that in this sense, we see that was so successful that survived for a long time. And I believe now when Azerbaijan, the Azerbaijan perception, how its relations should be with Armenia for the regional integration. It's basically in a very short, the answer is that we just want to copy paste everything what we have with Georgia to Armenia, right? So that is the model that Azerbaijan wants to implement with Armenia also. So this is as a positive example that Azerbaijan has in these relations. And I believe that, but if you are talking about the most recent time period, I believe that some weapons ending up on Armenian soil and those passing through Georgian territory, that created a bit tension, I would say, between Baku and Tbilisi in this regard. So if before Baku would constantly say that the bilateral process should be taking place in the border between Armenia and Azerbaijan, or it can be taken in Tbilisi. For the last, I would say, the 6-7 months, Baku stopped talking, like mentioning Tbilisi in this context. So this is also the reason why Baku is a bit neutral when the developments inside of Georgia, right? So Georgia being pro-Western is important for Azerbaijan also, because that's the route connecting Azerbaijan to the Black Sea, Turkey, and European Union, United States also, right? So like in normal conditions, Baku is supposed to react to this issue, but with the recent developments, again, especially with some weapons ending up on Armenian territory and all of this passing through Georgian territory, that Baku publicly, I would say there was a minimal reaction, but the certain decisions were taking, and Tbilisi, for the last 1 year, I didn't hear any Azerbaijan official telling that we can meet and talk in Tbilisi. So this is the result of that. So that is why, like your question, like does Baku see Georgia as neutral in the sense? So it's again, the strategic relations are there. It's excellent, and this model Baku wants to apply to these relations with Armenia also. So, but then we are in a time frame when Baku would love to see a bit different stand, especially on the weapon transfer. But let's see. I believe that with the upcoming months, there might be some open and frank discussions between Baku and Tbilisi on this issue also. So I don't think that this is something that might last. So Georgia and Azerbaijan relations, of course, like in all our relations, they were ups and downs, but generally these are the very positive and strategic relations. And I believe that this is some relations, as I mentioned, that can be taken as a template for all of the region relations also. So I have to stop there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Alexander, do you agree that Georgia was acting as an impartial and player in this conflict during the last two wars in 2020 and 2023?
I would say yes. I would say that if you ask me about relationship between my country, Armenia, and Georgia, it is one of unique examples, I would say. Georgia and Armenia lost 30-something years. They can be in different camps. They can have geopolitical orientation, which is not a consensus orientation. In time of when Georgia proclaimed its strict pro-Western orientation and proclaimed their will to be part of NATO and EU, when Armenia was and still is formally part of CSTO, a Russian-led organization, and Eurasian Economic Union. Georgia signed an association agreement with the European Union. Armenia prepared the signing, but couldn't, and we signed that time in 2013. Now it's changing. We signed, became members of Eurasian Economic Union. We called for years and decades Russia as a strategic partner, and Georgia, I said, they talked about knocking a door of European organizations. Georgia have good relationships with Azerbaijan and Turkey, and you have Turkish business and impact of Turkish economy. You can see it in Georgia and with Azerbaijan, and all pipelines from Azerbaijan to let's say Turkey and further goes through Georgia. For Armenia, both countries are closed. With Azerbaijan, we had conflict. Turkish border is closed at all for us last 30-something years, etc. But Georgia and Armenia, all this time from beginning of independence, had, I would say, brilliant relationships between Tbilisi and Yerevan. Sure, we had problems. And we do have problems, and any neighbor and will have these problems. And we had problems connected with geopolitical orientation of our country, with minorities, with cultural rights, such kind of things, with Armenian minority, ethnical Armenian minority in Javakheti, Georgia, etc. But we never had conflict.
Well,
We never had territorial problems that it was in Georgia with Azerbaijan. I mean, David Karachi Monastery, and the border, the process of delimitation, demarcation of borders is going on already. About 2/3 of border Armenian-Georgian border is demarked, and it's okay. Even in time of Russian-Georgian war, 5 war in 2008, it was really serious. I can say that it was really serious pressure on Armenia to recognize Abkhazia and South Ossetia as an independent states. And it was hard for Armenia not to do it, because we had Karabakh, which was populated by Armenians, and it was non-recognized state as well. But Armenians didn't, and relationships continued to be good. Georgia is approximately about 70% of Armenian export and import. Another 30% is through Iran. Batumi and Poti really are Armenian ports as well, because Armenian export and import goes through these Georgian ports, etc. So this is unique. I cannot remember another two countries which can be so far in the geopolitical orientation and so close in their cultural, human, economic, political, etc. So yes, I think that we have very good relations, but I don't want to say just toasts. It is very typical for any Armenian Georgian meetings. When they meet, we usually use this rhetoric for toasts.
yes.
To continue and to answer your question, which you gave to Ahmad, but maybe for me too, was it useful? Can it be useful? How can we use Georgia as a neutral, let's say, place for negotiations? Use them pro negotiations, which Ahmed said about Tbilisi as a as a format, as a place for negotiations. I would say that Armenian-Azerbaijani problem is not a problem of the place for negotiations. You can do it in Tbilisi, you can do it in New Zealand, you can do it in God knows where, in London, in Brussels, in Washington, in Moscow, where you want, direct at the border of Armenia and Azerbaijan. The problem is not somebody who would help us to normalize our relationships. We're too far from this perspective. We are too far from solution of the conflict. The problem is in Yerevan and Baku, not in Tbilisi. If and when we, Armenians and Azerbaijani, will be agree, not in the words, not in the discourses that everybody are for peace, but we would agree to talk about real consensual solution of the conflict, to talk to each other. That time, we will be able to find a place, and it could be sure and logical, Tbilisi, because it's closest place to both Baku and Yerevan. But I would say honestly that it could be in Switzerland, it could be in Brussels, it could be in New Zealand, doesn't matter, because the problem is not in such kind, it's not such like we want to to work together to go to the peace, but we don't have place for that. It's not like that. The problem is not somebody help us to go to negotiations. The problem is balance between powers and of Armenia and Azerbaijan itself. So at the moment, I don't think that Tbilisi can help a lot. And it's not Tbilisi's fault. It's not about them. It's about us. When we will come to this stage of our relationships, they can be useful, and it will be great to do it with Georgians as well, because we are neighbors. We live together in the South Caucasus.
So you don't see any specific ways how Georgia, practical ways that Georgia can help these two countries to settle, to come to certain agreement?
No, I can see way Georgia can have
Yeah,
help
but you don't see
if
how.
we would be able to do that.
Yes.
They can propose, but to propose to parts of
accept
country
it.
who don't want to go to this. We Armenians and they Azerbaijanis understand peace so differently. So it's not about Georgian help. Sure they can. Sure they would help. I'm absolutely sure that if we together will go to them, it will be, they will agree and they will help us with that. But the problem, unfortunately, is not about that.
Yeah, so do you think you're a bit too pessimistic? Or you just rational? Or you just realistic? So is this pessimism or realism?
Oh, I should be realist. I'm here not for giving my emotions. Who is interested in my emotions? I try. I mean, I can mistake, sure. I can be mistaken, but what I'm trying to say is about real things. So I can see we had so-called Moscow process.
Yes.
We had Brussels.
Brussels,
We had
yes.
Washington. We had just meeting alone, just two sides. We had even some contacts through Tbilisi. So the problem is not it's not about place. It's about something else.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Now a bit quite different question. I marked it in the flyer. Do you think that Bidzina Ivanishvili, in my opinion, he is de facto leader of Georgia, he might hope that, well, this is question first of all to Shorena. Do you think he might hope that he would give up Abkhazia? Well, it's not really about Armenia and Azerbaijan. He would reclaim, he would be able to restore Georgia's unity over Abkhazia and South Ossetia in exchange of abandoning Georgia's pro-Western, pro-NATO uh, course. Do you think so? Is it possible?
It's not possible. I
Don't
mean,
think so?
No. I think this is also kind of propaganda that we can restore territorial integrity if we just like distance ourselves from the European Union or this strategic partnerships we have with Western countries. No, it's propaganda, absolutely propaganda, which is very well used in Georgia to, especially now before the elections. Yeah. It's not possible. I think I'm a person who is for very many years being part of different processes, people-to-people diplomacy. I'm researching this topic, and I think we are simplifying actually the peace-building process while saying that, okay, this one guy, he can just solve all the problems with the majestic stick or something like that. It's not like that. I think this is different process to make peace, to restore, to integrate, or to speak, to have this conversation, which will eventually or potentially or maybe not, but which could lead us to the peace. So I don't think so, and I don't think so. I don't think that even Russians. I mean, if you relate it to this kind of speculations about Russia could help Georgia to restore its territorial integrity if Georgia would be befriended with Russia. So, and on that even, we have very clear messages from Russian politicians or public figures or those who are like dictating or creating this Russian narrative. So I don't think so, and it's not right. And we should be, for us, we should understand that peacemaking process is very long. It's not about a time, but it's definitely about efforts. It's definitely about enabling geopolitical situations. So I think when we have Ukraine in fire, when we have still not signed a peace agreement between Azerbaijan and Armenia, I think that it's very difficult to speak about that. And at this point, I think for me personally and for Georgian society, still democracy, state building, democratic institutions, field elections now, which is coming in October. I think these are the priorities which could engage us with constructive future kind of negotiations or dialogue, political dialogue, because it does not exist now. We have these Geneva talks on this political level, but eventually it's not giving anything, but it's still important. At least there is some exchange, but this is not the quality of dialogue, actually, we would like to see in future. But I don't think that Ivanishvili can bring any peace and any restoration of Georgian territories. This is the Georgian states and Georgian democratic states which should be leading this process. I mean, this is, and actually this is how we imagine that process. Maybe I'm too idealistic, but this is what I believe actually. So without, and the other things, this is propaganda, which is very well played in Georgia, inside Georgia as well, and this is something which current ruling party is using somehow to seek more and more supporters, but it's not right. It could not happen like that. It's different process, and myself. Being mediating, not of course state conflicts, but some experience with different type of community conflicts as a World Bank mediator. So it's very difficult process. We can claim that political negotiations are something different, but on the other hand, all those things are affecting political negotiations as well, and we have to get to political negotiations. These conflicts cannot be managed without real engagement of parties, and this is only possible if Georgia is democratic, is clear about its future, is strategically sure about its European path and European integration. So I mean, this is very, clear line for me personally, as an expert, as peace related somehow person. So no, my answer to your question is no. We have to make our.
I read some Georgian experts. I read them online, and not only Georgians, and they claimed that they analyzed, or misanalyzed, mispredicted that this Russia's goal to put their troops, troops are 2,000 guys only, in Karabakh was to start manipulating both Armenia and Azerbaijan. And eventually, they said Russians would press Armenia if using Azerbaijan, and if something goes wrong, they would press Azerbaijan using Armenia. But eventually, what happened, Russia, driven both over by their own interest and basically failing in, putting too much efforts in Ukraine, just a suicidal, fratricidal war, the Russians decided simply to get rid of Karabakh. don't you think that the same scenario might happen in Abkhazia? You know, it's just too much. Like you cannot control, you cannot put your troops too many. You know, if you know yourself probably if you're supposed to do A, B, C, D, E, eventually you think, okay, I will not do E. I will put A, B, and C. I will think about C, but not D. You understand what I mean, right? I have to, I should make up my priorities. But for some reason, Putin decided that Ukraine should be his priority. But eventually, he forgot about Karabakh. And maybe one day, maybe eventually he decides to that he Abkhazia and South Ossetia should not be his priorities too. You don't think so?
I think that even in this kind of scenario, if
Yeah.
Russia decides to do something, I think that our policy and our very clear determination should be that Georgia is not going to use any military kind of force or any
Yeah, I
military
understand, but
means
I was not
for
talking
that.
about
So
military.
that should be very clear for us. I don't think that this is very important. So we were actually, so for these last 30 years since we have just withdrawn and escaped, actually, I mean, Georgians from Abkhazia, in our political discourse, it was never a topic that Georgians can claim these territories with military means. So
Yeah.
thankfully, it's, I don't know, it's a weakness of Georgian political elite or political parties, but this was never discussed. And that's good. That's for good, I think. And I think that we should be very clear about that, not to be trapped by Russia's game. So somehow to deter ourselves doing that, because it would be, I mean, a big mistake, disaster to my mind, that will definitely bring much more hardships for Georgia rather than just restoring and celebrating territorial integrity. So my vision of solving this problem is not like that. So, and yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, and maybe the same question to Alexander. Do you think that Putin one day he might simply withdraw from Abkhazia and Southern Ossetia in exchange for some Georgia's? Well, our Georgian expert doesn't think so, but as I understand, you don't think that he would be. That option is possible, right? But you don't think that it's possible that he can withdraw from Abkhazia and Southern Ossetia in exchange for Georgia?
First,
Yes.
first, I would say thank to you and Shorena for previous question and answer, because it was more or less the same, the mirror of previous question to me. Would Yerevan help Georgians to have negotiations with Abkhazians and come to peace? Sure, we can, to give a building in the center of Yerevan and, I don't know, to send aircrafts to bring people here and to help them with organizing that. But it's not about aircraft and it's not about building. No, Yerevan cannot help the Georgians and Abkhazians because it's a bit more complicated than just to help to negotiate. So this was kind of the same mirror. It's much more complicated than just to have negotiations with this or that town. Back to possibilities of Putin to withdraw, or after Putin or Russia. Is it a possibility of Russian isolationist politics and withdraw their everything from post-Soviet space? I don't think that it is very possible. Sure, it's not possible in short and middle terms. Theoretically, I would ask, like Shoren, and maybe I would repeat, theoretically, I can, even if I can imagine that scenario, that Russia will withdraw their forces, their bases, their soldiers from Abkhazia. Scenario when Georgians will came to Abkhazia with military operation and deport all population of Abkhazia altogether, with children, with I don't know, elderly people, civic population, etc., to I don't know where, to Turkey, to Russia, to God knows. No, I cannot imagine that. It was not, what was in Karabakh? It was not just like Putin decided this and this came. Azerbaijan was preparing for this war approximately from 2004, 2003, 2004. It was more than 15 years. It was a process. It was a preparation process, not just with weapons, not just with ideology, not just with financial sources for that, high prices of oil, etc., etc. You could see this process. It was visible. You had clashes in 2010, in 2012, in 2014, in 2016, in 2018, etc. You had it. It was in Georgia. You have nothing like that. And it's not just because Russians are there. They were not, for example, before 2008. They were not there. So no, theoretically, I can imagine, very theoretically, I would say, for Russians to go out of this, of Abkhazia and South Ossetia. But to imagine a Karabakh scenario for Abkhazia from Georgian side, I don't think so.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Now, Ahmad, what do you think? Do you think that Russians might leave Abkhazia and Southern Ossetia in exchange of something, of some promises for Georgian side? What do you think?
Well, generally, I would say that we are witnessing in the region what we are not witnessing for decades, right? So this is the very famous saying that there are decades which wars weeks. There are weeks which are wars decades, right? So the developments taking place within some weeks in our region might be equal to some developments in decades. So this is so that is why it's very unproductive job to forecast something in the region.
Yes.
Again, what happened with the Russian withdrawal from Karabakh, etc. I don't think that there was any like the publicly, like the possible way to predict that this is going to happen way earlier than November 2025. Like we all were discussing that will Russians leave Karabakh in November 2025, right? Nobody would even like to ask that. Will it be done way before that time of that deadline? So that is why, like saying that this is possible or not possible in our region, it's not a very productive thing to do, frankly speaking. Again, this is classical example, again, when within weeks you can witness so many things that within decades you don't witness that. So we are region in transformation. So is it possible? Yeah, sure. Like that. So again, never say never. This is the case in our region. But I would say that we have to, Sharena also answered that question, like why Georgia staying pro-Western is like the path for Georgia to develop. I would build on that issue, and then I would say that I am not going to claim something or introducing new thing, but there are a few questions that we have in Baku. The vision from Baku, the optics from Baku is a bit different also. Like I would say that for the last 2.5 years, we are seeing that the Minister of Defense of Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Turkey, they are meeting quite frequently. Those
Meeting what? I'm sorry.
the meetings are taking place quite frequently.
Oh yes.
this creates a lot of, and I would say that those my first question, I told that there is like the Baku and Tbilisi because of those weapons transfer. There are some issues, but also there is this side of the story also that MODs, they are meeting quite frequently. And so the changing role of Turkey in the region, and both Turkey and Azerbaijan see Georgia as a vital part for Turkey to reach Azerbaijan and then Central Asia, for Azerbaijan for reaching the outer world. So that's why Georgian sovereignty and it is territorial integrity right now, stability, it's very important for Ankara and Baku also. So the question is like, can it be a source, additional source of the, let's say, for the Georgian decision makers that they are not that dependent on the European capitals and the Washington on security issues, and they be more independent on this issue, right? So there are this side of the story also. This is how the things are. Again, I'm not claiming anything. It's just some questions like that we are discussing here in Azerbaijan expert community. So I believe that this kind of questions, they should be on the agenda also. And so that is why, like your question about can Russia and Georgia, Tbilisi and Moscow have some deal about Abkhazia? Again, it's very possible. But the reality is that our region is in a very complex phase of this history. So not having access to certain information, or even like that, I would say that when you have access to information, it's like you know the things too detailed. You cannot, like you are escaping the bird eye view, right? So it's very hard to do also. So that's why I believe that now it's a very challenging time for decision makers, for analysts to understand what's going on. So even like this, sometimes when you can have all the information, or you can believe that you have all the information, even then it's very hard for you to understand all the developments taking place in our region. But Georgia, ensuring that Azerbaijan has stable access to the world ocean, Black Sea, and Europe, United States, and for Turkey having access to Central Asia through Georgia, it's very important. And I believe that Baku and Ankara, they are keeping they are quite focused on that. That can Tbilisi be totally pro-Russian and block that role? So these are the questions in the minds in Baku also. So that's why I would not just simply pick certain issues and build the whole theory based on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we should go to the questions. Okay, I guess that's it. Do you see them? My gosh, how we can? I don't see the questions. Oops. Chat. Okay, now I see some of them. Everyone, thank you for joining. Okay, just a second. Let me see. Question to everyone. Isn't location important outside of Georgia? Just a second. Let me see what they're asking. Just a second. I need to look at these questions.
We can see it as well.
You see it? Okay, this is the first question. Isn't location important outside of Georgia? Increased travel costs, that's limiting interactions and discussion, while also excluding many who could be involved in it. Was easier to gather. What do you think about location? I don't think it's important. Okay, let's see what is the next one. Just a second.
It's about Russians, yeah?
Yeah, Russia tried to make everyone think that it will be chaos without Russian presence in the Caucasus. Is it possible to solve these issues without them totally, or the less Russians, the easier gets? Okay. So what do you think?
So I think
Anna?
Russians are making chaos everywhere. Of course, without them, I think that it would be easier. But on the other hand, the Russians are there. You cannot ignore. But we should be mindful, reflective, and get stronger. I think counterweight Russia's influence somehow. That's why this Armenian, Georgian, Azerbaijani cooperation and reflective cooperation is very important. Yeah, because Russians won't go anywhere. I have no hopes for that. So, and of course they make chaos everywhere. So, and what we observe even in Ukraine or with Georgia, they just their strategy is to destroy, to make chaos without any implications. So I think that yes, that's why one of the reasons why I think that it's important to have this common, to create this better, more solid common space for cooperation in every direction and politically solidify as well. This cooperation is one of the reasons is to counterweight Russia, I think. So, yeah, this is.
Okay. Okay, the next question is from Anna Chislevska. I heard in other versions that Abkhazians had not been officially absorbed by Russians, as Georgians, well, changed it. Well, I know, I mean, just a moment. It's not very convenient.
Actually, there is also another question about foreign agents law and anti-LGBT
Yes.
laws, which I think that very soon will be adopted by Parliament. Actually, in 18 laws, different laws, Parliament is making
How
changes.
different it from the Russian?
I don't want to speculate on this issue. I don't think that anti-LGBT laws or even foreign agents law will somehow influence Georgian Armenian or Georgian Azerbaijani relations, but it will definitely have implications on this striving towards democracy in this region. I mean, this is something not on these bilateral levels, but conceptually it will implicate various things because and the only reason why there is no other explanation for this foreign agents law. Only explanation is just to shrink the space for independent, free media and civil society. So there is no other reason. So obviously there is no transparency of the main aim of this law. So this is why it's so concerning and why it's so so dramatic for Georgia. But I don't think that there will be any kind of short-term or middle-term influence on these bilateral relations. But all in all, for the region, I don't think that it's good to shrink space for civil society organizations and for these free discussions. That this is essential for us. I mean, what we have in Georgia so far, and I mean, this is kind of another perspective for that question.
Yes, and Onik asks us, I have covered Karabakh on the ground since 1994 and since 2009. The ethnic Armenians and Azerbaijanis cohabited villages in Georgia. Lest we forget, most of the Armenians passengers traffic and some, do you see it, right? And some, let me see. And some.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
And some trade passes through the Marmeule municipality of Georgia, which is mainly ethnic Azerbaijanis.
Yeah. What is this question?
Okay, I can try to answer to that if needed.
Can you?
I wrote yes. I will try. I know that in New York, you have Jews and Arabs living in one city.
Yes. Living more or less peacefully, yes.
Yeah, sometimes you have problems with the same Jews and Arabs in Paris, for example, but they live in one city. I know about Irish people living with British or English speaking people, and they speak English as well in the same New York or Washington or whatever. You can do it. It's not about people who can live together in Georgia or in Russia or in God knows where. It's not just about Armenians and Azerbaijanis. Persons can live together, but you have conflict which is politicized. It's not about, I don't know, Uncle Sambel and Uncle Ahmad playing Nardi with each other. It's not about that or eating something together. It's about conflict which has history, which has, I'm sorry, armies,
Yes.
political bodies, elites, etc., etc. People can meet, and it is extremely important, I would say. Me too, as Ahmad, participate in meetings when we meet with our Azerbaijani colleagues, and Azerbaijani colleagues meet with us, and I know a lot of them, and Ahmad included, and we were together in different meetings, and we didn't kill each other there, but we could communicate normally, and young people can do it. But the conflict is not just about people sitting together and watching football by TV. It's not about that. The ethnic conflict, politicized ethnicity is not just ethnicity. It's not about jokes about each other or something like that. If you would ask me, could in principle I imagine conflict begin between ethnically Armenian and ethnically, let's say, Georgian in Georgia? Yes, of course. But our countries have normal relationships and everything is okay. And if we have problem, we will decide it somehow. So it's not about that. It's different, format of the conflict. So I think that this is necessary. I think that this type of meetings are extremely important. We know to see each other. We know to listen each other. That's why, by the way, dear Mika, I agreed to meetings in this format, your format, Georgetown University format, to talk to each other. We need to inform each other. They, Azerbaijanis, should see what is in Armenian discourses, Armenian, let's say, problems, what people think here about that, and vice versa. We should understand Azerbaijan. It is extremely important. But to think that the problem is just people to meet, no, unfortunately, it's not like that. You need to try to resolve this problem on political level, on social level, on many geopolitical level, etc., etc. It's not so easy. Relationships between persons and relationships between countries, it's not the same thing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? I guess not. Okay.
On this issue?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead.
Agree.
Yes.
I believe that this is very important to understand that. Look, always sweet talking. I believe this is the standard practice for the peace building community, and it should be right. So that's what we have to see that. And also not losing the ties with the reality. It's also very important. And Alexander was very, like, I believe that to the point on that issue. At the same time, we have to look for which communities can bring some positive contribution to the process, right? So if the Jewish and Arab community in New York can bring that contribution, how to engage it, like interact with the overall process. The Istanbul Armenians, Georgian Armenians, Georgian Azerbaijanis. So without losing touch with the reality, and Alexander rightly warned us, like like the interpersonal relations doesn't mean that it's going to be applied to the intergovernmental relations also. Without losing that touch and without always talking positively about these things, we also should not ignore the positive contributions we can get to various communities. And I believe that these days we understand that there are so many discussions on various communities within Armenia and Azerbaijan, how they can contribute to that. So within Armenia, we see, let's say, there are very conservative people now protesting, and they, of course, their vision is very different from what Mr. Pashinyan is saying, that Prime Minister Pashinyan is telling to the people. Also in Azerbaijan, and I believe that in other parts, like when you are in the bigger cities, you get your news from designated sources. But when you are Armenian, Azerbaijani living in the borderline, you understand that that might affect your livelihood, and that you remember the past experience of living together. So your perspective is a bit different, right? So that is why, which positive experience, we should, again, which wolf we are going to feed inside our communities. So that's why I believe in that sense we have to be very careful picking the right communities to work. So in that sense, as I mentioned, that Istanbul Armenians, Georgian Azerbaijanis, they have something that can be supported, which can help take the process forward. But again, we cannot afford losing touch with the reality. It's very important what Alexander is saying. So this is very important. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, very good. There was another question. What do you think the adoption of foreign agent law or anti-LGBT laws, would it somehow...
I think I have already answered to that question with another, coupled with another question on Russia's role making chaos. Or
you kind of use them together. Okay, right. Okay, next question. Let's see, what is this? Ornick James. Location, I guess it's the same.
I think this question is interesting, the last one on North Caucasus.
Northern Caucasus one,
Yes, I think that's interesting. Actually, like 15 years ago in Georgia, there was an attempt to bridge or reach out with North Caucasian diasporas in other countries. And actually, I think one or two Circassian kind of conference was even organized in Georgia. But actually, it did not work so well because then Georgian-Russian war started, and then there was no any possibility to continue that. So I think that still there are some connections of Georgian civil society organizations with North Caucasian counterparts, but it's of course not so intensive because of Russia's role, because of many other factors. And this is very sensitive, especially for us in Georgia. Like we remember all these Bank-Isi issues in the end of 90s, early 2000. I had lots of different sensitivities and insecurities actually are connected, especially now. But I think this question we cannot avoid to engage in future, to engage more intensively with North Caucasian people, because still this is Caucasus and it's North and South. And I think that it's something we have to think about very carefully. Now it's very sensitive situation. We have war in Ukraine, still relationship between Armenia and Azerbaijan are not settled. And Russia, Russia is very active Georgia is in kind of internal political chaos, polarization. I think these are the questions we have to deal with in very maybe small, I mean, in a smaller circles, in expert community. But it's very sensitive. There are so many insecurities for our countries, for those diasporas, for those people, actually, even North Caucasian people, because we are facing Russia's very aggressive strategy. So I think that this is very important issue for maybe future, but we should be very careful and reflective and engaging more intensively with them. So engaging with them to counterbalance Russia, I mean against Russia, or in what kind of format we are engaging. So I mean there are different topics to, first of all, to determine, to define for ourselves. Yeah, I'm not a big expert, but this is what I can sense, and from all this my knowledge and readings I have. So thank you.
Thank you.
We have in our institute, I had students from Northern Caucasus for years. They were my students as well. They were for different parts of Northern Caucasus. We had courses on Caucasus in out, not just in another university as well. I had students from Dagestan, from Chechnya, from Circassian republics, from Ossetia. We participate, me personally, last time I participated in the conference in Northern Caucasus approximately half a year ago. Last time we had a seminar on here in Yerevan on central part of Northern Caucasus just a couple of months ago. I had even a student from Dagestan. It was a young lady. She was Azerbaijani ethnically.
But she was from Dagestan.
From Dagestan. She was Russian citizen, but ethnically she was Azerbaijani, and she lived in Yerevan. It was master's degree, and she graduated from Caucasus Institute, and then she went to Tbilisi, and she was in, and if I don't mistaken, in a program in Tbilisi Ilia University for that. It is not enough, sure. It is not enough, and to develop relationships with our neighbors is extremely important, I would say. Sometimes psychologically we are far from Northern Caucasus because this is part of Russia, at least officially. And sometimes is it not easy to work there just because it's part of Russia, and some places in Northern Caucasus regimes are not so democratic, I would say. But we have Soviet legacy to work together with colleagues from that republic, and I think that we should continue. And as for Armenia, it's not enough. Sure, it's not very developed, but we try. We try to. I don't just mean myself. It's about the community of scientists here or researchers here. So you have some perspective, sure, because this region is very close from Armenian border to Chechen border by car is approximately 2.5 hours to drive.
How much?
2.5, maybe 2 hours if you drive.
Yes, it's very
Good. Okay, 3 hours to drive. So it is very close. You don't have okay, four, maybe 4. So you can go to Ingushetia from border of Armenia in 4 hours.
Yes.
Chechnya is half an hour from that border. Ossetia is half an hour from that border. It's very close, but psychologically we're far from each other because this is Northern Caucasus, not South Caucasus, and I think that it is very. It is a need to develop our relationships with these communities, with these people.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we basically have just 5 minutes left. And does anyone wants to add something? Because if I will raise another question, it might take another 10 minutes to answer them. Just very briefly, does anyone want to make some conclusive remarks?
Are we concluding? Yeah, are we concluding?
Yes, so we have just less than 5 minutes left.
Okay, so I would like to say a few words that I think it's extremely important to discuss these issues, and because we live in very dynamic environment. I mean, every time something is changing. So I think that we should be reflective, should be mindful about these developments. We have to have this multi-layer approach, analysis actually towards different things happening around us, like what's happening on the level of communities, societies, what's going on in terms of geopolitics, various actors. So I think that this is very important, and very important is that somehow to develop this common understanding of peace, of region, because it's not yet so, because our political elites are not, I think, ready for that. I think we, expert communities, we are ready to dive deep into these discussions, even deeper. I mean, we just covered just a few issues, but we can go deeper into this discussion. But political elites are not. So I think we have to be prepared to reach out decision makers. But it's like everyday work. It's a routine work, and but to have this vision is utmost important. And still, it's not there. But I think that I mean, expert community, academia, civil society organizations, I think we are gearing to that directions. And yeah, let's see. Thank you.
Thank you. Ahmad.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. I always enjoy our conversation with Alexander, like it's a traditional, and seeing his wisdom on this regional development is very important to understand the Armenian perception on this issue also is very important. And today, with the Sharina also discussing these issues, it's great pleasure. I can tell you that for the last couple of months, what we are basically in peace building community in the track 2, track 1.5 community we are discussing is that it's obvious that track 1 is way ahead of the track 2 and track 1.5 in Armenian-Azerbaijan peace process, right? So it's a very abnormal situation. It's supposed to be the track 2 efforts. They're supposed to be more innovative. They're supposed to take the process forward. But in reality, we're seeing a bit completely upside down, turn the process upside down, but track 1 is much more innovative, taking the whole process forward. So what should track 2, track 1.5, like the...
So we have just 2 minutes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so what they supposed to do. And I believe that we understand that talking about the regional integration, how we can make sure that Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan, they can adjust certain political, let's say, their vision, how to move forward together, and discussing these issues in detail. So in a much more detailed manner, that is a new niche for the track 1.5 and track 2 efforts. So that's why this meeting is, these discussions, it's extremely important for the region and the future of the region. And I'm looking forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And Alexander.
I will come from another angle if possible.
Yes,
2 days ago, 2 days ago,
yes,
it was a football match between Georgians and Turks.
And
In
today,
Yerevan,
Georgia and Turkey, yes.
Absolutely, Georgia and Turkey. Okay. Yeah, some of them were not Georgians, some of them were not Turks. You
Yes,
didn't have people at the streets of Yerevan at all.
Oh, that's wonderful.
But in
I did not
cafes,
know that.
where do you have TV? Men, women, young women. It was more than in football of Germans or I
And
don't know,
unfortunately, they lost. Unfortunately, they lost. It was such
British,
a
etc. Everybody.
Yeah.
It was not about experts or about academia or about God knows NGO people. It's about really Armenian people who
Yes.
were there and who was with Georgians. So
Yes.
so we have some perspective. It was can I call it, Ahmed, not 1.5, 2, but let me call it 3 or 3.5
Yeah.
or 4 or
Yeah.
5. But you can see this. You can if that's so, we will have future.
Okay. Okay. Thank
It's
you
very
so much.
positive note.
It's
Yeah.
very positive
Thank you.
note.
Thank you for
so much.
mentioning that.
It's a great. I did not know about this this thing. And thank
And by
you
the
so
way,
much.
Georgians were not bad in that football. We're
Thank you.
not bad.
Unfortunately, they lost. Unfortunately, Georgia lost. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. And sorry to those whose questions we were not able to answer. It was a pleasure to see everyone. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.